Well, hello everybody, this is DearMamaSal, and it is Tuesday. A wet Tuesday at that. Very wet Tuesday. First of all, before I do anything else, I just wanted to make sure that I gave a shout out to all my Filipino viewers, whether they are in the Philippines or those that have family left in the Philippines, and I pray that your families are safe and well after the terrible devastation. You know, I was watching that and it just makes you be so very grateful for every day, because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. And so many people live in the past or live in the future. And I think when you see something as devastating as that typhoon and the waves that hit after it, you have to say to yourself, you know, today I'm going to make it a good day, because really it could be my last. And it doesn't matter where you live or how safe you think you are, any day could be your last. And so I wonder if you live that way. I as you know, my personal epitaph asks that I do. Every day you need to just check in at night and ask yourself, am I proud of the way I live today? Am I proud of what I did today for others? Am I proud of who I am today? And know that every day you get to start again. I think we're incredibly lucky that way. So I am quite sure that all those people that have been absolutely devastated will be in shock for a long time, and will be seriously affected for a long time. But I also know human nature says that they will systematically rebuild their lives. And some will do it better than others. We know that as well. Some will be more able to accept what has happened and move on. And move on to just starting all over again. And I guess the truth is that those that can do it will do so by just going, that is the truth, it's over. You know, it's gone. It's time to move on. So, for those of you who've got friends and family back there, I'm certain that you're terrified. And I'm certain that you're very grateful for the telecommunications that we have today. And that's something I always think of as well, which is, imagine if this had been 50 years ago, how on earth would you find out whether your family and friends were okay? You know, you'd have to do it by letter. And, you know, it was just, you know, there is a lot to be grateful for, even in the sadness of it all. Well, it's been a great weekend for me. Having said that, it's been a great weekend, quite a long weekend this weekend. And as some of you know, I managed to get a couple of vlogs up, which was fun. And basically, I managed to keep my commitment to Manon, and Manon, I managed to clean out my freezer. And it was incredibly funny to do. It is quite obvious to me that I don't like to throw things away. including food. And that's okay. But the problem is I've either got to throw it away or I've got to eat it. And so I'm going to have to train myself to maybe not put everything in the freezer. And, if I haven't eaten it after a couple of days, just throw it away. And what I did this weekend was I made a big chicken stew thing with all the leftover vegetables and other bits, and made a really big chicken stew. And then what I did is we had some for supper last night, and I sent a whole lot downstairs so that Yvonne and the family could have some as well. And then I froze 2 small amounts of it. So that's my other thing, which is if I got that much left over, then make a big stew and share it. I found that keeping that commitment was good for me. I didn't want to particularly do it. It was a very back-breaking job, and I really was aware of my I almost want to say frailty, but frail is not a word I like to use about myself. But the weakness that I have in my back. Because to lean over and empty and sort out a freezer, a bottom freezer, is extremely painful on the back, I discovered. And I eventually just got one of my lawn chairs and sat in that. And hopefully, and that eased my back a little bit. But boy, I really did have to keep taking a break just to ease my back. I hate that. That part of me that is fighting every inch of growing older, just hates that vulnerability. But it is what it is, and I will treat it with respect. I can feel that it's still sore today, so I know that at the office I've got some good back medicine stuff, so I will take some of that today, and I'm going to also do a lot of stuff at work that will stretch my back. I'm aware of the fact that those muscles are screaming, so I'm going to make sure I keep them moving today so that they've got a chance to do something. On the Battle of the Bulges, I really appreciate the support I've been getting from Christine. Christine, thank you so much. I am squeaking my way down at the moment. I managed to get all the way back down to my previous weight. I think I'm just about there. As you know, I put on pounds and pounds. So I did manage to do that, I think, and I'm very, very happy with myself for doing that, because it's taken a bit of discipline, but on the other hand, I haven't been perfect. In other words, I did not skimp and not eat the roast beef and Yorkshire pudding or the trifle that followed. It's just that I've been trying to be better behaved on the other meals, and watch my portion control, because that is what I found really is the difference. Don't eat until you're full. I look at it in terms of cups of food, and I've got little containers that are cup containers, and I know really that I need no more than 2 cups of food. If for example, when I was having the stew, 2 cups of food was fine. But I can give myself as much vegetable as I want to eat. And then obviously when the Yorkshire pudding, that's a no-brainer. Forget forget all other rules because you know you're going to have you're going to have gravy, and you better enjoy it, which I did. And then just be more careful with everything else. I started juicing again last night. Made some juices, so I'll have those today when I get home. My goal is to have a fairly decent lunch. I brought a fairly decent lunch with me. And again, it's a cup of soup and a cup of other food. And half a slice of bread to have with my soup. That beautiful homemade bread. And then I'm hoping when I get home that I can manage on juices and maybe some cereal later on. That's my goal. Because if I can do that, then obviously the weight will shift quite a bit. It's really fascinating to me, the things that happen in your life. For those of you who were with me on Born TV the other night, we were doing a broadcast, and a very dear friend of mine, in terms of broadcast land, another man I've ever met, but a man that I've met many times on doing broadcasts, is Jeff Boston, and he really surprised me. Because on Sunday he actually asked me to do him a favor, and I said sure. Depends what it is, but as long as I can say yes to it, I will. But it turns out that he's a bit of a poet, and a bit of a lot of poet actually, and he asked me if I would read one of his poems. And I did. And then he sent me another one and asked if I would read it. And I did. And I can tell you, it's really quite stressful when somebody just sends you their work of art. Especially somebody who's a professional on that sort of stuff. And just asks you to would you mind reading this? And then it turned out that he said that he would like me to record it. And that was such a huge compliment. He just loved the way that I read this stuff. Which is pretty mind-blowing, considering that I just sort of read it, and I think I read it twice before I actually even attempted to do it online. And it's very difficult to do because in reading it, when you're taking a piece of poetry like that, in reading it, you've got to try in that moment to read not only what the words say, but feel the soul of what was being felt when the words were being written. Wow, that sounds very deep, doesn't it? But if because when you read poetry, there is so much emotion underlying the words, and it's really important, if you can, in that moment to actually try and dig deep and try and feel that emotion, so that you can get that emotion into the reading. And it was really strange because the other thing I said during the conversation was, it was a poem about being alone on a beach, and what I said was, it was really strange because what I felt was this was not like a Hawaiian beach, with the palm trees swaying gently in the breeze, and this was chilly. This beach had a chill to it, and And then I asked, "Is it true? Was the beach on which you, of which you spoke, was it somewhere that was not in the warmth?" And it was. So that was great. I was delighted that I could feel that. So the point that I wanted to make on this, though, is you never know who you're going to meet, or the opportunity you might be given. Now, I don't mind telling you that there's part of me that when I was asked to read this poem, that was terrified. I'm terrified in as much as, gosh, what if I mess it up? What if I don't read it correctly? Scary. But if you don't try, you never will succeed, right? So we know that. So I had to give it a go. And I also didn't understand why I was being asked to do it. So there was a bit of a confusion. But on the other hand, I trusted him enough not to do something that would embarrass me or be something that I would not be comfortable with. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that you sort of never quite know who you're talking to online. You also never quite know what somebody sees in you that you may not even see in yourself. For example, I have never read anybody's poetry in my life, other than my own. And when I sort of list my skills, that wouldn't be one of them. And yet obviously he saw something, I think. He heard something in my voice that he thought would fit really well with his poetry. And he was saying that, he's about to publish, he's been asked to publish this particular poem somewhere, and he would like to have the audio as well. Because not everybody can read poetry the way that it's presented. So isn't that exciting? Learned to do something new this weekend. Nothing wrong with that at all. Feeds the soul, remember? Learn something new. Challenge yourself on something. So that makes it a good weekend. Had a good meal. Dougie came to visit. For those of you who know Dougie, he came to visit. And that was insane. Because we were up as usual until 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what it is about Dougie and myself when we get together, but we do all the social things and everything else, and then we sit down with cups of coffee, and we start, and we really talk. And that's another art that really is disappearing, I think. Just to sit down and talk, and we talk politics, and we talk goals and achievements and anything else that we can possibly talk about, and we just catch up completely in all those things. And we talked about his love life, and it was all these sort of things, and it was just magical. I love it. And then we didn't get up until lunchtime the next day. And there's that little kid in me that gets really scared. What if somebody comes to the door and finds I'm still asleep at this time? Well, it's my life, and if I want to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning and not get up until lunchtime, I can do that. I deserve it. That's the way I want to spend my weekend. And that's my right. And I wonder how many of you agree with me on that one, which is just like, yeah. That is okay with me. That's what weekends are for, to do what you want to do. I can really see that the weather has changed. I forgot to give you the weather report. It's 7 degrees Canadian and 45, so it's quite balmy, but wet. I know that some people wonder how we cope with the wet here in the Pacific Northwest. Well, we don't call it that so much, but and it's like, how do you cope with this much rain? And quite honestly, you just get used to it. I know my brother always asked, how do you cope with all those grey days, without sunshine, without this? Well, it's fine, when you live in Africa, you've got sun all the time, just about. But it affected me for the first few years I lived here. I definitely was affected by it. And today, I don't think it affects me at all. It's just raining. That's what it is. I like it better than snow. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like a lot of you, the first snowfall, as the trees are covered in snow and everything's pristine, and oh yeah, you gotta love that. Everybody's gotta love that. Take your picture postcard view, and you gotta love it. But then it turns to slush, and it's black, and it's yuck, and then it freezes before you've shoveled it properly, and then you can't move it. Not my idea of heaven, I must admit. So I admire all of you that enjoy the snow. Seriously enjoy it. Not just the picture postcard stuff. That is absolutely great. So, this has been a good weekend. I hope yours was good too. And I wonder what you achieved. I also wonder what you were grateful for this weekend. And so I really would challenge you that again, and I challenge that quite regularly, but I do challenge you to be really aware of what you're grateful for. I sit here driving to work grateful for the fact I got a car that got me there. You know what I mean? It's just the small things. It's really important to have that grateful attitude, because from a grateful attitude you get a happy one. And I find, in my experience, that the world brings more to happy people than it does to ones who have a chip on their shoulder, or who are always complaining, or whatever. So I really do challenge you to smile, enjoy what you've got, however small it may be, and to also be aware of everything around you. I don't know how, but I found an article on the internet yesterday about somewhere, I think it was in Sweden, that they've developed a shower that is capable, the water comes out, it's hot, the water gets recycled through a filter or a series of filters, whatever, that makes it better than tap water. In other words, whatever gunge it took off you, it manages to completely filter that out and bring the water back to above a regular tap or faucet quality, and then continue that loop. So to have a full shower takes 5 gallons of water as opposed to 150. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. How they do it, I don't know. But they reckon if we all had those showers in our homes, we'd save like $1,500 a year just on showers alone. And what a wonderful thing for countries where water is very scarce, that you could do that. And I found that really fascinating. And the other thing is this, that the reason it saves so much money is not just because of the cost of water, it has to do with the cost of the heating. Because the water is recirculating, you understand it loses very little of its heat. It loses very little of its heat while it is doing that. And in other words, it's not trying to heat 150 gallons. It's just reheating, topping up the heat on the same 5 gallons all the time. And that's what you call exciting. This is Dear Mama Sal, who's arrived at work, saying bye for now.